What is going on YouTube? This is Jim, back with another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys some gameplay from Titanfall 2's newest DLC, A Glitch in the Frontier. And I thought what better way to show off the map and talk about some of the patch notes and where I think the game currently is than to show off the new map itself known as Glitch. Now right now Titanfall has a special playlist going on right now where it's Glitch 24/7. This particular map that I am playing happens to be Capture the Flag. And this was actually one of my better games, despite the fact that in a second or so, you're going to see my dog. Well, you're not going to see my dog, but you'll see what happens when your dog walks across your controller and you plummet to your death. But other than that, I had a pretty darn good game, and I thought this was pretty good indicative gameplay of what you can expect if you don't suck at this game, which for a very long time I did. Anyways, enough of me rambling and on with the show. So I pulled up the patch notes from JFresh. He posted them on the official Titanfall website, and on there we can see all of the great new content. So first and foremost, obviously, the map in the new map Glitch is out right now, and it's a lot of fun. There's also a new live fire map called Deck. I haven't had a chance to check that one out. I've been playing a lot of Glitch. And I guess before I read through all the patch notes, let me just dive a little bit into some of my thoughts on Glitch. It's a very open map, but what I really like about it is the run lines are very, very good. And that's where my dog jumped on the controller and whoops. Okay, sorry, just had to point that out. The new map has a lot of really good run lines, especially from one side to the other. You can see later on in the map I get a lot more courageous, especially when we're trying to push some of the flag captures. And you can get incredible speed on this map and in a very, very short time traverse a very wide distance. I never really felt like I was exposed too much. I think snipers would probably have a decent time with this map, but again, the inclusion of the massive amounts of verticality, I think, is what really helps you kind of traverse from one into the other. And the fact that right in that area where I'm looking at now is actually this glass structure. So you'll actually be able to see through the glass, but not able to pick off enemies very easily. And I think that helps kind of break up some of the predictability that we normally would see in other maps because instead of like running through an open building, running through that area with the open glass, there are multiple exits and there are multiple kind of vantage points. And I think that that makes the predictability a little bit better. So I like that. And I think everybody can agree. It is pretty frustrating when you are playing through a map and snipers are just kind of having a field day with you. So it's kind of nice to have a little bit more variance in terms of the altitude and a little more variance in terms of, you know, entry and exits into certain places. So I think they did a really good job with this map, I guess, if there's one way I could sum it up. Going back to the patch notes, they've also added a brand new faction and a brand new execution. Now, I have really yet to get any of the cool executions because this game is so insanely fast and because I maintain the game wants you to focus a little bit more on movement than it does on some of the shooting mechanics because there's a lot of auto aim and a lot of snapping to aim. So typically when I see an enemy kind of out in the distance, I'm not really trying to get an execution. As a matter of fact, a minute ago you saw an enemy run right through me, and the last thing on my mind is melee. I'm just holding down the trigger and trying to mow people down. Anyways, if you can manage to get 10 pilot kills with the pulse blade, you'll unlock a new execution called Get to the Point. So that could be cool for those of you who are really good at executions. I am not. Now, they also went on to talk about that they are going to be introducing a lot of new featured modes. As I mentioned, right now, the only featured mode we have is called Glitch 24/7. And that's just a variety of regular game modes, nothing unique on the Glitch map. And that's what I've been doing mostly, just trying to get the feel for the map. There's some really good vantage points and good places to stand and that sort of thing. Coming in the future, they're going to add Marked for Death, which is a 6 vs 6. The description says, one member of each team is marked as targets, and both teams must defend their target while trying to kill the other team's target. Once one of the marked players is killed, the surviving team's mark is awarded a point. After a few seconds, new marks are chosen. First team to 10 kills wins. So similar to, there's a Gears of War 4 mode in this where there's like a gold MVP player. It kind of reminds me of that. The difference with that mode is respawns are limited once a player dies. It sounds like this one you could just spawn indefinitely, just trying to throw yourself at this guy. I actually prefer the Gears of War variant a little bit better to that because I feel like it kind of forces, once the gold player dies and the respawns are limited, I feel like it makes gameplay a little more interesting, but you know, I do appreciate some different modes, so I'm excited for that. They're also adding Titan Brawl, which they say, think of this as a team deathmatch with just Titans. 5 vs 5 mode with Titans only. No ejecting and respawning. Each kill counts for 1 point and first to 30 wins. So very similar to last Titan Standing. The only difference here is that you can spawn more often. It's not just a single kill. And in this case, you're trying to get to 30 points. Sounds like fun. Sounds like you'll get to be in the Titan a little bit more, although I feel if you know what you're doing with the Titan, which I am confident in saying I'm finally getting to that point, like in this video here, you're going to be in the Titan for a pretty long time anyway once you know what you're doing. But it's just going to be straight Titan mode, so I think that's cool. I don't think there's an issue with that at all. And lastly, they're also adding the Iron Last Titan Standing. It is the last Titan Standing you know and love with a few new rules. 5 vs 5, no ejecting, no batteries. So that sounds cool. They've also done some minor feature updates. You'll probably notice that the background is finally changed. We'll have something to look at while we're loading up the game, which is kind of nice. Pilot gen is now increased to 100. They've added live fire mode to private matches, which I haven't really gotten into yet. And you could choose between regular prime or random executions for your Titan if you own the prime Titan. They've also made it some new network settings, one I really appreciate. The game will now emit a sound when it is going to connect you to a match. I really like that a lot. Right now it just throws you in. If you're browsing, trying to customize your character, the game will just snap you into a new match. So it's nice to have a noise. If you're familiar like me with Halo, it's got that very audible beep, beep, beep countdown. This is kind of similar to that. They fixed some issues with partying. And they fixed some issues where you couldn't invite friends after starting a private match. Again, I haven't dealt with that. But these just sound like minor bug fixes. But you know what? It's welcome. I appreciate that. Another game improvement that I like, something I just found out today when I booted up the game to play, was that multiplayer will now be last remembered. So when you load up the game, if you played multiplayer last, the cursor isn't going to highlight over single player. It'll already be highlighted on multiplayer, which is kind of nice. They removed some sun flare for some maps. Particularly, they mentioned Colony, Exoplanet, and Forward Base Kodai. I didn't notice the sun flare being too particularly bad in any of those maps, but clearly it warranted some change, which that's fine if it seems to give an unfair advantage. Depending on where you're standing, I'm all for that. And now the faction leader Gates 6-4, which I did notice this, the 6-4 faction leader Gates, rather, he does use the model that was used in the campaign, which I noticed that as well. Then they made some different changes to the Titans, your traditional balancing. Some of the Titans got bug fixes. Some of them got a little bit more nerfs. Some got a little buffs. Tone, which is my personally favorite right now. He's my favorite Titan. No change. And then there's some weapon changes. I'm not going to go into all of them. I think you'd probably be bored with a lot of that. And then just some random bug fixes. So all in all, pretty nice patch considering this is kind of like the first, major, big drop here of something new to sink our teeth into, which is kind of hypocritical for me to say because I've only been playing the game now for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, but I like the new content and I appreciate that they are not segregating the audience and making sure that everybody has the same maps and that kind of thing. And I think that's going to go a long distance. I think Ubisoft was one of the first that I could think of in recent memory to really pioneer that idea of everyone's going to have the same maps, although different players may have different characters that they use. Although Titanfall, they're not doing that, but it's nice to keep the player base vibrant as it can. And I do think also with, kind of keeping the player base consistent, that's important because, as I've mentioned numerous times, it is on the lower side. I'm looking at it right now as of recording this video, 5:30 on a Thursday. That's 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're sitting at about 7,000 people. So a little bit low, but not horrible. But this patch doesn't do everything right. And there's a few things that I feel the game can improve that I have been kind of looking through and kind of comparing it to Halo 5. And I think the biggest thing that it's missing is some sort of ranked mode. I do enjoy this game just for the run and gun, and I like to win. I like to get more money to unlock things faster than I'm supposed to with my pilot level, and I like doing all the cool gun and all the cool Titan customizations as I've been getting more into that and getting different camo, and that's just going to come by grinding in a sense, but I don't feel like it's grinding because I'm enjoying playing. What I don't like about that system, though, is there's no ranked mode, and I feel like that's what's really hurting this game. Ranked mode really keeps the game fresh. You get fresh ladders every few months. Halo does it monthly. Some of the other games like Overwatch or Heroes of the Storm do it a little more irregular. But it's nice to be ranked and know where you fit. I think you get more accurate matchmaking. Right now, matchmaking really is just like, hey, we're going to throw people in a pile. And there are games where I absolutely dominate. One of the games I had last night, I had 35 pilot kills, which is just stupid. But I was playing against bots, essentially, very, very amateur-type players. And then there's games where I walk in, and after 10 seconds, I'm frustrated, and I just think to myself, let's just throw the game because we have no chance in hell of winning. And I feel like a ranked mode would really weed some of that out, and I think it would make the games more competitive. And I don't see any reason why you couldn't have more competition. The only thing I can think of, again, going back, and I know I harp on it a lot, is that player count. Maybe they're worried that there's not enough diversity in the community to warrant that. I'm not really entirely sure, but I feel like having a better player, having more ranked, I think would make it more viable from an esports type perspective. Instead of just these kind of pickup matches that we get over and over and over, I think they would mean a little bit more, especially if you're putting your rank on the line. The other thing that I'm a little frustrated about that hasn't really been included yet, and it's not really a fault of the game per se, just as the universe as a whole, although we do have a very nice stat menu in the game that breaks down how long you've played, your KDR, your preferred weapon unlocks, that sort of thing, there's no web client for it. And I like that functionality to see my matches. That's not in the in-game thing either, though, with the in-match version. I don't like that either. But it's nice to have stats, and I know that these things are tracked, at least on some level. They have to be. And it'd be nice to just be able to browse that data. I know it sounds kind of nerdy, but I'll tell you what, when we were really getting hardcore in Halo 5, and it has died off significantly after we got the beloved Achilles helmet, but we were looking at that as a clan, and we were weeding out players that we didn't think were good enough based on some of the performance they had. And it also kind of taught you a lot about a player when you start to see your accuracy and you start to learn patterns about it. And there can be some kind of internal data mining if you want to think about it like that. I think that is something that's really important. Here I found out, by the way, as you're watching the gameplay, Titans can't return the flag, but they can camp on it for their buddy to do it. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so I feel like that online component is missing, and I think that's something that would really make the game a lot more vibrant, and I think that would really increase some of the returnability of the game, other than these just kind of throwaway pugs that we kind of deal with now. So we'll have to see if that actually comes to fruition. I know that they're still supporting this game pretty significantly right now, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes. I'm really into it. I continuously surprised in the fact that I'm getting more and more into this game, and I was quick to dismiss it, and I'm not now. I'm definitely very invested in it, and I do know there is a different level of difficulty in this that you would expect from a standard FPS. I still stand by my criticisms, though. I feel like the game has a little bit too friendly of a aim assist, and there are some perks that you can get that kind of change that, especially with the perk where you can aim iron sights when you're wall running, and instead of wall running, you actually just hang and shoot, which I think is kind of nice. But I don't feel like it's enough yet. And I don't know if they'll ever get to that level because the increase of mobility and the factor being on mobility. And I think that's where a lot of the game is really focusing their attention on. So anyways, just wanted to go over the patch notes to the guys at Respawn, JFresh in particular. You guys are doing an awesome job. And I call you out because you're the community manager. I tweet you all the time. You're super responsive to everybody, liking tweets, responding. That is awesome. Keep it up. And all you guys, it is a fun game. So that's all I have. Hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay and a little bit of a walkthrough. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Get out there, play some Titanfall 2. Look me up on Xbox Live at Jassafat. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.